Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 1014 to 1015 for the 3rd to the 4th of December. There is also the latest frontline changes and information from up to today. We will go start off with the let's go from the south then. So over from the Kherson front, Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported on the 3rd about the Russians attacking in the pre-Dnipropetrovsk direction again, they didn't talk about in the next day. So it's definitely waning. Definitely is not as often. And I saw a comment say calling me Wayne. I'm not Wayne. I'm Wyatt. Just saying, And shelling is reported at Mikhailske, Sadove, Molodezhne, as well as what is this place? Priozhne. So Priozhne is new, that's why I'm not familiar with that name. So there's some shelling around the Kherson region. Not it's a very quiet front line. There's not much to expect from this area here. Over at the Zaporizhia front, this is the Zaporizhia front. There is fighting reported over in the Kayamsky region. Novoandrievka, Novodanilivka, and Robotine. I think I need to like this. So there's some fighting around these sectors, and the Kayamsky one is reported over the past in the past 24 hours. So this is a bit new, and the flare up of the operation, the fighting around here on the 3rd and the 4th, is interesting. There is some fighting around here, but because of the fact that on the 4th there is no continuation, so this is definitely not a major operation. But I was surprised to see fighting at Robotine again, reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So otherwise, the situation remains pretty much the same. I think the Russians are just doing a buffer around this area here. Kamsky definitely is interesting that there is some fighting around this area here, but nothing particularly very interesting has happened per se. We over at the Velika Novosilka sector. So this sector, I can't even zoom in, zoom out. So okay, let's should be like this. So we have the major collapse over in Blahodane. Blahodane has fallen according to the Ukrainian mapping, and the Russian forces have taken the entire southern part of Velika Novosilka. No fighting is reported at Velika Novosilka. We have shelling reported at Dnipro, don't know what's that, Dnipro Energia or Energia. Vinipole, there was shelling reported there. Russian forces attacked Novosilka, Zelenipole, as well as Novodarivka. Novodarivka is also interesting. The Russian Defense Ministry on the 3rd reported that they have conquered Novodarivka. So take it if you believe them. There is fighting reported at Rozdone as well. So the Ukrainian mapping has claimed that they have retaken Novi Koma. So that actually opens up Ukrainian positions to allow them to travel north and south towards Velika Novosilka. But the Russians are definitely coming up from the south already, given the capture and securing of the Blahodane. So the situation remains very difficult for both sides. The Ukrainians still holding a very strong line over Novodarivka region. They are losing the southern flank of Velika Novosilka, but I did mention that it is unholdable. I did analyze this is the case, and it does happen as I have mentioned it to be. What is interesting is the ability for the Ukrainians to break out this Novi Koroma region, forcing the Russians back to open up this space and use this crossing over at Novo Ocherituvate. And so the bridge over at Vremivka and the Velika Novosilka has been destroyed since May, April and May. It is one of the targets. That the bridge have been hit twice already by the Russians. So they definitely want to make the logistic very complicated for the Ukrainians, and there is no guarantee that the bridge is very usable at this moment if they repair it. So the fighting continues. The Russians are definitely going to retry and take Novi Koma again, because this will allow the Russians to have a operational encirclement around Velika Novosilka and force the Ukrainians out into Vremivka. So that is what the Russians is going to plan to do, and they are getting very close with the
capture of Blahodane. They raised the flag in the south, but the Ukrainian mapping has considered the entire region. There's Charlie reported at Kolma as well, but this is a bit far, so not very important. Over in the Uspenivka sector, on the western flank, there's Charlie reported at Ulakli. Russian forces entered into Sukiyali and Konstantinopolsk. So these are all very, very major developments, which means that the Ukrainian lines in the south of this river is entirely disintegrated in a way. There is some bridges over at Yantarne. There's another one, of course, through Uspenivka, but there's another drama over there. I'll tell you later. So, and fighting is reported in the direction of Constantinople, as well as towards Roslev. So there is probably some frontline change around this sector that is not reported, I believe. So we'll definitely see some updates coming soon, because the Ukrainian side just considered such a major concession at Sukiyali and Konstantinopolsk. So they just can't stomach to report another one here. So I believe must be some kind of frontline change in this sector. It doesn't make sense to have no changes for such a long time. And we have geolocation of Ukrainian artillery destroyed in the south of Dashny, with the Russians pushing in the direction of Dashny. So and there is, of course, fighting at Uspenivka. So that is the current situation over in this sector. Is very, very terrible. And we are going to see that the Russians going to secure all the way, all of the Konstantinopolsk, close down on Hihant, and capture Sukiyali, and probably straighten the front line in this way, as the Ukrainians try to hold the breach over Yantarne as long as possible to prevent the Russians from crossing the breach, and of course facilitate any withdrawal from Sukiyali and Konstantinopolsk. So that's probably what's going to happen at this moment. As we moved into the eastern flank, you can see that there is fighting reported at Dalny, and the Russians have suddenly appeared in the eastern part of Uspenivka. So that I currently map it in this way, as a movement down the tree line from Dalny, but there's a high chance that the front line change might be bigger. Fighting is reported at Hanivka. Romanivka, Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Romanivka. There is geolocation of Russians raising the flag on the eastern part of Romanivka, but that's not indicative of the entire settlement getting captured. Ukrainians considered the eastern part of Yelizavetivka in their mapping, so invalidating their claims. And of course, just now as mentioned, the Russian forces entering into Konstantinopolsk, as well as moving in the direction of Uspenivka. And in this sense, we are looking at a pincer already on Uspenivka, and it's becoming a yin yang symbol at this rate. And so, and the whole meaning of this yin yang thing is that it turns, because change is a constant, and we're going to see Uspenivka change hand in the near future at this rate. And at Romanivka, I want to zoom in to show you a little bit more. So the geolocation of the frontline change is of the flag raising is more or less almost in the center of Romanivka. Actually, there is no news regarding this eastern part and the eastern outskirt entrenchment, and the Ukrainians may be actually still on the other side, but who knows? Because the Russian Defense Ministry, talk about the capture of Romanivka, so who knows that what is actually happened. And of course, the geolocation of the Russian forces entering into the buns on the outskirts of Uspenivka, this is shocking. It's very, very sudden. So, and if the Ukrainians capture the breach around here, the entire southern flank at Uspenivka will fall down this Sukiyali river. So the southern bank of all the Ukrainian positions south of Sukiyali river will fall. So the Uspenivka is that important. But the Russians are there already, so that's a bit shocking to me. So let's see how this continues to play out. Over in the Krakove sector, so let me see. In the Krakove sector, we have fighting reported at Sonsivka. Russian forces have entered and I think most likely captured the entirety of Stary Terny. There is somehow fighting reported at Bereski by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 4th, which is the past 24 hours. But that
a lot of sense unless the fighting is around here. Fighting is reported at Krakow with some minor frontline changes, as mentioned in the frontline changes report. You can watch this frontline changes over on the main channel. This is the war channel, by the way. Check below, make sure you are subscribed. And geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting FPV drone strike over on the western part of Krakow. Of course, there is fighting reported at Dashny. I wonder if the fighting is coming from the south or actually coming from the north. It could be either way. But yeah, it's reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 4th. So it could potentially come from any directions. So that's the situation right now over in this sector. Very bad sector as well. You have this is one salient, this is becoming another salient. So then you have another salient here, another salient here, salient here. No, they're just getting really professional at getting encircled. Over in the south of the Selidove sector, we have the Russians attacking in the direction of Ukrainka with the capture of massive amount of grounds in the south of Pushkine. Fighting is reported at Pushkine as well. Fighting is reported at Zoria and Novodimitrivka. And by the way, there's also another salient here. So this is the current direction. We're fighting reported towards Ukrainka. And if we zoom out, let's see, there's I think the only reason to go into this direction is to cut the main road. Leading from Andriivka, moving up north towards Minokhrad or Pokrovsk. So I think this is the main reason to cut off, to go in this direction for now at this moment. But even in the north, the road is clearly almost getting cut off. In the northern part of the Selidove sector, you have the Russians captured Novopustinka as mapped by the Ukrainians. The Russians have now entered into the southern part of Shishchenko. Fighting is reported in the region of Zovte, which is similar to the Novopustinka region. There is a massive frontline change around the southeast of Dechensky, with the Russian forces securing and further increasing and improving their positions in the north of Hrihorivka. Some people are you going to go into this nonsense about Hrihorivka? I know in Russian it's called Grigorovka, but they spell H on the map. I'm going to pronounce H as what they write. Whatever they write, I'm going to pronounce it as is. So it's Hrihorivka or Hrihorivka. No, I don't care. Yeah, so they can live with it, And fighting is reported at Lysivka. So that's all. For this region, as you can see, yet another salient. Actually, this is underwear, Underwear. Let's see that. And this is a baby. And then you have a, yeah. So that's the baby underwear, which is also known as diaper. But if you're a soldier, defending this front, and then you see that maybe you're here, and then you see that the Russians are now doing this to you. Yeah, I think if it's you also need a diaper. This is getting really bad. So geolocation, there's some geolocation of FPV drone strikes within Pokrovsk, and which means the Russians are now actively hunting for targets within the Pokrovsk, which is a sign that they are running out of targets in the front lines. Yeah, so because why would you waste your FPV drone not hitting something at the front and fly so far into the rear positions? The distance from the front line, let's say to Zovte, is around 6 kilometers. So, and the furthest point one is 10 kilometers. Why fly so far? Nothing within the first 3 kilometers. So this also is a sign of the situation over in this front line, where the Ukrainians are running out of equipment for the Russians to hit. So after, as mentioned, fighting at Lysivka, over in the Horodivka region, we have fighting reported at Novotoreske, Myrolubivka, Horodivka, Promin, as well as Minokhrad. So that's all. This front line is static front line. Don't expect too much from this sector, as the Russians are focusing over on this side in the flanking operation in the south of Pokrovsk. So Pokrovsk. So let's move on to the New York front. And the New York front, we have mention of Kalinove by the Russian Defense Ministry on the 4th. There's shelling reported at Stara Mykolivka.
And then we go into Thorax. I think we need to zoom in a bit into the Thorax region. Some interesting developments around here. Fighting is reported at Dashne, Nelipivka, Skibinivka, Zabalka region, and Thorax. And I want to zoom in into this part because there's some major frontline changes in these sectors. So the Russian forces has launched a major offensive operation in the Thorax region over the past 2-3 days, and we are now seeing the exact result through geolocations. Significant ones, we have the Russians appearing in the middle of two hills, definitely the place where all guys want to be. They have entered into this area and potentially have the ability to hit into the rear positions of the industrial zone where the Ukrainians are holding. And clearly with this development is the industrial zone is not holding with the Russians have for the first time, geolocated within the industrial zone. They have entered into it. The latest geolocation also shows that the Russians may have fully captured all of the high-rise buildings in the center of Toretsk. And this signals a major tactical change in the Toretsk region, and not just that, not just the Russians' ability from the two hills to hit up north and northeast, but the Russians could also pincer and create another encirclement, another salient around this industrial zone and the mining area, the mining enterprise region. So this is actually pretty bad. And with a stronghold, with a strong positions, with the two hills as a sighting point, with the industrial zone and then the high-rise building as a fortress, the Russians could potentially easily capture the rest of Toretsk. Like this will become the ultimate castle, the ultimate fortress in Toretsk. And from this region here, Russians could easily attack into Skibinivka, blow out into the rest of Toretsk, and go into Krimsky. So this is a developing situation, but it looks like this closure of this entire salient looks like inevitable at this moment, unless we're going to see some creative solutions by the Ukrainians to negate and reverse this trend. We move on into the Bakhmut front. At the Bakhmut front, we have fighting reported over in the Bilohora direction, Stuposhki and Chasivya. There is some frontline changes at Chasivya and Stuposhki. Ukrainian forces has been geolocated this area here. Why is this not changed in color? God, we already mentioned this so many times. I'm not going to repeat again. So ignore that. So over in the Chasivya region, Russian forces have been geolocated in the center of Chasivya, and they have made advance further in this sector. So this is a very, very slow crawl, as this is a really, really complicated terrain to fight in. The enemy could be from any directions, snipers, mines, ambushes can be anywhere. So that's why I don't really favor any offensive through this direction. If I'm coming from a perspective of a Russian commander, I would not have wanted a major offensive through this direction. I'd rather go around it. But but the Russians, they will bear it through. Pun intended, bear it through. So move on. Over in the Sivers front, we have the return of some fighting around the Sivers front. We're fighting reported at Perezhny as well as Zvanivka. Reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. There is fighting reported at Siversk as well. So I haven't take a look at the latest today's situation report from the Russian Defense Ministry, so I can't tell at this moment if this is a continuation of the a new offensive operation. But tentatively, does look interesting to me. We move on into the Crimea front. We have fighting reported at Terny, Yampolivka as well as Zarishny. But that's all. Nothing particularly stands out here. Over in the south, Sverdlovsk front, we have fighting reported at Druzhlyubivka, Kharkivka, Makiivka, and Novolyubivka. Nothing special here as well. We move further up north into the Borova sector. We have fighting reported over at Novoyahorivka, Peshov-Travneve, Zelenihai, Lozova, Stemakivka. Again, while there's some interesting movements in this direction, in these two directions, but it's like
Yeah, nothing changed, nothing special is being reported. Frontline have not changed for a long time, so no, so that's not much to talk about. Over in the Pischane front, we have fighting reported. Let me see. So this is also quite some days ago, 3-4. Yeah, this is also outdated. Now why I didn't change the colors? So anyway, fighting is reported at Kolesnikivka, Rushkivka, as well as towards Novo Ostinove. But that's all. Nothing new. This seems to be a focus right now for the Russians heading towards the south of Kupiansk. If I move on, you can see that this is actually moving in the southern direction of Kupiansk, which is over here. Whoops, I'm so sorry. Here, so this Kupiansk looks like they are trying to head into the south. Which makes perfect sense because they are trying to come down from the north as well. So that is a massive pincer movement. And since we're talking about this, over in the Kupiansk region, the Russian forces are fighting in the region of Sinkivka, Petropavlivka, Kryshcherivka, as well as in the Kupiansk region. So this continues to be the case, but this terrain here is reminds me of Chasivia. Very, very difficult terrain, very, very defendable. So yeah, I don't think the Russians are going to make major breakthroughs anytime soon. That needle down the main road is gone. The Russians are still, as per last reported, in the southern salient, the beachhead over in the south of Vorishna. But in the north of Vorishna, thing has reversed with the Ukrainian forces retaking the entirety of Novolimsk. The Ukrainian sources is super excited about this success. They wrote a long article and piece about this, about their heroics, how they managed to destroy the Russians. Despite this area of capture happens almost daily now, like on the Russian side, like every day, this amount of land is being captured. Now multiple settlements captured on a daily basis. So like you can really see the situation of the times, where the Ukrainians are celebrating a small capture. It is still an impressive thing because they are going against the tide, but such is the time that they celebrate this while the Russians are capturing more than this on a daily basis, like multiple times of this. So anyway, Ukrainian forces geolocated within Novolimsk as they successfully counterattack. So they have secured the northern part of the Vorishna front along the Oskil River, but they still have this southern one to deal with. And then we move on to the Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, we have some continuation of the situation in this western part. But before we go there, fighting is reported at Voschansk, nothing particularly special there. And then we have fighting reported at Neshkushny. So this is more interesting. It's reported on the 3rd. It didn't repeat on the 4th. So this is the just attempted diversionary attempt, I guess, reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. Fighting is mainly over at Klipoke with the frontline changes of happening over there with the Ukrainians counter-attacking there. There is no reports by anyone particularly about the Ukrainians attacking Klipoke other than the geolocation. So there must be some attacks and fighting, clashes over Klipoke. And then we have the Kozacha Lopan sector. The Russians are still pushing Kozacha Lopan somehow, somewhere. And then we have the latest from the Russian Defense Ministry yesterday talking about Elisivka. So yet another one. Previously, they had attacked Kudievka on the 29th of November. And on the 15th of November, they did try for Vysoka Yoruha. Hotivka happened on the 30th of November. So the Russians has been raiding these few settlements lately. So from Zuralevka. So let's see how this continues to play out. But this is just an interesting sector to look at. And we move on to the Kursk front. At the Kursk front, we strategically nothing particularly new happened. So we have fighting reported at Plekovo. Let's throw this aside first, and then we go on to the north and eastern flank. I think I can fit in everything. So fighting is reported at Martinovka, Pravda, Yuzhny, Malaya Loknia, Viktorovka, Nikolsky, Leonidovo, Alexandria, Novo Ivanovka, Nizhny Klin, Lebedevka, Svediklovo,
as well as Nikolaevo Darino. Ukraine's counterattack at Darino itself managed to capture some grounds and get a tank destroyed. Their own tank. Ukrainian forces geolocated at Kulenkoe. So you can look at the arrows yourself. You can make your own decision. What the hell is happening right here? Where is the actual front line? No, because the front line drawn may not be actually the reality. So you can, based on the fighting, you can kind of have a sense, what the front line actually is. So anyway, yeah, that's what it is. No, I know I can hear what you're thinking. Yes, that's correct. You are right. You're 100% correct. I totally agree with you. So anyway, that's it. So, and if you now you read my mind, what I want you to do. Yes, correct. You are so smart. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.